Trump says, I love tariffs. Well, I don't. He's a fucking idiot. He says the Canadian ad was AI. Well, guess what isn't AI? Me, motherfucker. Fuck you and your whack-ass daddy.
Stand up.
Wow, fake Ronald Reagan sounds really mad to start off the show. Hello and welcome. Very excited to have you here because I have Ophira Eisenberg back. We had an awesome conversation. I think you're going to love it. If you want to jump to it, it begins at
41 minutes.
But I hope you'll stay because I've got your headlines and a clip show. As always, it is a shit show that is coming up. Of course, it's Thursday. This is the Thursday show, and I want to remind you there is a hangout. I'll be hosting my birthday/Halloween costume hangout. Wear a costume. You know, maybe just a hat. It's just a Zoom hangout, so just your top half if you want. And we will have fun tonight at 8 East. Very much looking forward to it. Your advice for me on turning 50 and the way forward and all of it. If you're a paid subscriber, I hope to see you tonight at this very special hangout. And if you're not, go on over to patreon.com/PeteDominic and sign up now. Hope to see you tonight at 8 East. All right, let's get into the news.
It's Pete's headlines and clip show. Get in on the shit show.
The shit show begins today, guess where? In the Middle East, where Israeli strikes killed at least 100 people in Gaza from Tuesday into Wednesday. It appeared to be the deadliest day since Israel and Hamas agreed on a ceasefire 3 weeks ago. The strikes began late Tuesday after the Israeli government accused Hamas of violating the truce by failing to return the bodies of dead captives and by attacking Israeli forces in southern Gaza. The Israeli military said one of its soldiers had been killed in the Rafah attack. So because they hadn't given back the dead bodies and allegedly attacked and killed an Israeli responded by killing 100 people, apparently, according to Gaza health officials. So horrible. The horror continues. The peace has ended. And as I said yesterday, it will probably get worse and we should brace ourselves for that. It's pretty bad in the Caribbean where Hurricane Melissa made landfall in Cuba yesterday as a category 3. So it's gotten a little weaker, but it's killed 36 people across Jamaica, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic. So it is now going to hopefully shoot out to the east and into the Atlantic Ocean. At least that's the trajectory, and I hope it keeps its promise. The Federal Reserve on yesterday, cut its benchmark interest rate for the second time this year as it seeks to boost economic activity and rejuvenate the sluggish labor market despite concerns about persistent inflation. I've got audio in the clip show from Jerome Powell. Dude is a riveting speaker. I mean, he is very engaging, real something. Well, a federal judge disqualified the United States attorney in Los Angeles. Trump's attorney is getting Bill Ezziali, I think, and it's the latest rebuke of the Trump administration's attempts to circumvent congressional approval for federal prosecutors. Can't do that. A biosecurity expert whose views had helped form the basis of the insane Bobby Kennedy's decision to cancel funding for mRNA vaccine research, which is a very consequential decision, very bad. Well, his name is Stephen Hatfield, and he was fired over the weekend from his job as a senior advisor at the Department of Health and Human Services. He and senior department officials said, apparently because they were trying to overthrow RFK Jr. I don't know. It's crazy. That's a wild one. So is the CIA's operation in Venezuela that apparently started under the Biden administration, where apparently the CIA was trying to convince one of the Venezuelan authoritarian leaders, Nicolás Maduro, one of his pilots to fly into or to a U.S. territory or place where a U.S. has a base like Cuba so they could snatch him. That's right. There's a whole story at the Associated Press. Really wild. Probably going to make it into a movie is my guess, but what do I know? The head of the National Counterterrorism Center examined FBI files in the last several weeks to investigate whether the man charged with assassinating Charlie Kirk had support from anyone else or a foreign power or another entity. You'd expect him to do that. You'd expect the FBI to do that, I guess. But apparently the inquiry alarmed Kash Patel, who's the director of the FBI, But here's a story from the New York Times. The head of the National Counterterrorism Center examined FBI files in the last several weeks to investigate whether the man charged with assassinating Charlie Kirk had support from someone else, a foreign power, or another entity. The inquiry by Joe Kent, the director of apparently Kash Patel and others think that Mr. Kent was overstepping, treading on FBI responsibilities and potentially interfering with the investigation and prosecution of the suspect. But supporters of this guy at the National Counterterrorism Center said, well, he was doing his job, running down leads, making sure no foreign or domestic groups were linked to Mr. Kirk's death. The suspect, who's 22 years old, accused of killing Charlie Kirk last month, as it was only a month ago, as the Christian nationalist activist made an appearance at a college campus in Utah. So this will only further fuel conspiracy theories. The idea that he was looking into connections, which you'd always do. Why was he looking into connections? Well, you'd always look into connections. They looked into Lee Harvey Oswald's connections. They looked into the guy who shot Reagan's connections. Anybody who even attempts to kill a president, they look into all their connections. So that's not weird. What's weird is that the FBI would be upset about what someone else at the Counterterrorism Center is doing, looking into those connections. And that will further fuel some Israeli connection or whatever that nonsense that nut job Candace Owens has been spouting all about. So that's an interesting and important development. And I guess one of the biggest stories right now is that Trump sat down with the Chinese leader Xi Jinping for one of the most significant meetings of his 6-day trip across Southeast Asia. Of course, all kinds of stories coming out, all kinds of reporting, headlines out of all of these conversations, negotiations, and visits that he had with other world leaders in Japan, South Korea, of course, with the Chinese leader. I highly recommend that you read reporting about it because there seems to be a lot of developments with China, especially around the tariffs, and I'm not quite read in on it, so I'm not going to say much more about it. I am, however, going to read to you a little bit from Heather Cox Richardson's daily email, of course, Letters from America, where today she writes, it's the 29th day of the government shutdown. The House of Representatives is still on break as House Speaker Mike Johnson continues to try to force the Senate to pass the House measure to fund the government without negotiating over the Democrats' demand for the extension of the premium tax credit. Without that tax credit, healthcare premiums will skyrocket. And I want to mention that quickly because if you or someone you know hasn't been on the marketplace because the window is open to pick a new plan or hasn't gotten a letter that says your premium is going to go way up and the analysis is like 115%, then let me know. Because I talked to somebody yesterday who told me a friend of his was a wreck when she found out that her premium's going to skyrocket. And I know she's not alone. It might be you. We'll talk about it at tonight's Hangout. But that is a huge development and story. And a lot of people are waking up to this fact right now. And you have to imagine that was the Democrats' strategy, that if they can keep the government shut down until now over this negotiating point, people are finally going to move over to their side when they get their bill and say, yeah, we can't allow this tax credit to expire. And Republicans say, well, it was a credit put in during COVID and COVID's over. Well, no one can afford this hike, this cost hike, and no one can afford health insurance in general in the United States of America. It is so pathetic. Also yesterday, air traffic controllers received their first zero paycheck. And for weeks, air traffic controllers have been calling in sick. Flights have been delayed as a result. And so it's bad. The government shutdown is bad. I think the worst development, though, is what we're learning about people who are reliant on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits. 42 million Americans, like 20 million kids, and they've just been told that they're not going to get their payments on time, November 1st. People are gathering all around the country, organizing around the country. I want to talk about this at the Hangout as well, to try to raise money to feed people. The administration, the regime maintains it can't distribute $6 billion the United States Department of Agriculture already has in reserve to cover November 1, although they can do all kinds of other things like buy planes for Homeland Security and fund ICE raids and a lot more. Politico reported Monday that even some Senate Republicans want to fund SNAP in a standalone bill, but that's not happening. It ain't happening. So it's a pretty terrifying situation, and states are suing, blue states suing for these SNAP payments. The lawsuit notes that the USDA's claim that the SNAP contingency funds cannot be used to fund SNAP benefits during an appropriation lapse is contrary to the plain text of the Congressional Appropriations Law, which states that the reserves are for such use in situations, quote, in such amounts and at such times as may become necessary to carry out program operations under the Food Nutrition Act of 2008. So today, ignoring the Speaker's insistence that he would not recall the House to debate standalone funding for SNAP and WIC, Democrats, led by Senator Ben Ray-Lujan of New Mexico, introduced a measure to fund both. So just as the government is stopping addressing food insecurity and as healthcare costs are skyrocketing, the administration is permitting credit reporting agencies to put medical debt back into people's credit scores, even if laws say they can't. That's another huge development yesterday. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau under Joe Biden tried to remove medical debt from credit reports, and yesterday published a rule to make sure that states can't stop companies from including such debt on credit reports. So this is another terrible development, of course. Man, I haven't even gotten today to just everything that ICE continues to do across the country. But those are the headlines that I'm bringing today. And now I want to get to that clip show for you, the sound that I've brought to today's episode. Let's start with Fox News. I know, wait, hold on though. It's Jessica Tarlov, who is really good in this moment, as she often is, arguing with the panel. You hear the devious and insidious Greg Gutfeld laughing, but I love what she has to say here.
The story about Democrats cutting off SNAP benefits and that we're the heartless ones and Mike Johnson feels terrible is how you say BS. Mike Johnson, in his big, beautiful bill, $186 billion gone from the SNAP program. And in the 2018 shutdown, Donald Trump made sure that people got their SNAP benefits because he knows that it's important. And that's why Josh Hawley wants to have a standalone bill about SNAP. Josh Hawley, who also wants a standalone bill to make sure that people get their Medicaid coverage back because the big, beautiful bill takes it away. So, Gregory, that is how I have shown you that my tweet wasn't dumb. That I'm not dumb, and that this is the Republicans' fault. If you are in charge, you have to negotiate. And just saying over and over, we need to open the government, and then we promise we'll do it.
We have to negotiate, meaning we have to give in to you.
You have to give something. That is how this works.
I think.
And what are you planning on giving?
Just allowing this to happen is a cooperation. You guys have to actually somehow stop lying to us about these benefits.
Nothing that I have said is a lie. Nothing at all. If you get 90% of the big, beautiful bill and you have to protect Americans' health care, which, by the way, they'll reward you at the polls. Because guess what? People like to have health care coverage and they don't want to see their premiums go up 114%. You will be thanking me. You will not be mocking me. You will be bowing down at my altar about the fact that I saved your party.
Yes.
All right. There you go. I thought that was interesting. Okay, so here's an interesting story that you only hear on Stand Up and from hundreds of outlets that are reporting it that I'm relying on, especially those out of Canada. The leader of Canada's most populous province on Wednesday said U.S. Ambassador to Canada, that's Pete Hoekstra, should apologize to Ontario's representative in Washington after Ambassador Hoekstra reportedly shouted profanely at him about the province's anti-tariff ad. So Ontario Premier is Doug Ford. He says Ambassador Pete Hoekstra owes David Patterson an apology for absolutely unacceptable tirade that Ford was said is unbecoming for an ambassador. An official familiar with the matter confirmed that Hoekstra shouted at Patterson during a reception hosted by the Canadian American Business Council in Ottawa on Monday night. The official spoke on condition of anonymity. They were not authorized to speak publicly on the matter. But anyway, as a result of this dust-up, the very outspoken Canadian author, journalist, and member of the New Democratic Party, it's Charlie Angus. He's was a member of parliament. Anyway, he made this video, which I thought was pretty interesting just about the whole thing.
Pete Hoekstra, Charlie Angus here. It's a pretty foggy day here in Northern Ontario. Now, I bet you're thinking that that's because of all the fog of disinformation that's being pumped out of the U.S. ambassador's residence in Ottawa. But if you feel it in the air, Pete, no, this is just the frigid feeling of the north as our winds start to blow down on you, because we're kind of done with you. Now, I just want to follow up with you, Pete, on a couple of things you've been saying recently on this tariff fight. You know, we were being led to believe by you that Donald Trump was all ready to sign a trade agreement with Canada, and we had worked out everything, you know, aluminum and steel and all our problems, and it was all going to be done by American Thanksgiving, and whoa, Canada had an ad that just quoted Ronald Reagan in the World Series. And your president lost his shit. And now he's saying there's never going to be a trade agreement. He's not going to talk to Canada again. And you come out and accuse us of foreign interference. That's quite the charge, Pete. Now, I'm a polite Canadian, so I don't want to say that you're a liar. But Pete, your track record speaks for itself. You lied about weapons of mass destruction and got called out. You lied about American author being tied to Islamic terrorism, and the Washington Post gave you the 4 Pinocchios Award for ultimate lying. You lied, Pete, when you were the ambassador to the Netherlands about Muslim violence in the Netherlands, and the people of the Netherlands called you out, and then you lied about them and said it was all fake news, and then you had to apologize to them. How the hell did you get hired, Pete, to be the ambassador of what was America's #1 trading partner, America's #1 ally? But let's face it, Pete, we know Canada's not the America's #1 ally anymore. Vladimir Putin is.
Oh, man, Charlie Angus. 20 years of raging against the machine is a caption I read next to his name on the internet. I like that guy. Or maybe I don't. I really don't know anything about him, but I like the clip. And I like this one too, because my old friend Mandy Patinkin, you know, yeah, that Mandy Patinkin, he cut an ad. He and his wife cut an ad for Zohran Mamdani with Zohran in it. It's the three of them. I'll just take a quick excerpt from it. This is obviously getting a lot of attention because Mandy Patinkin is a very outspoken, very well-known Jewish actor and activist. He's been very critical of the Israeli government action against the Palestinians. And, of course, Zohran has been called an anti-Semite by everybody. So this is significant that I think Patinkin is endorsed him so full-throatedly. And so, yeah, speaking of full-throatedly, yeah, you longtime listeners know what I'm talking about with Mandy.
You can't do anything better than get out that vote, get your friends to vote, knock on doors, make some phone calls, and don't waste a second. Drive people to the polls, get everyone to vote. It matters that they're engaged and that they're changing our city, our country, our world.
Yeah, take it to a Mandy. Love it. Good stuff. Okay, well, now I want to move on to, seeing as that was very exciting, something very boring. Here is a quick clip of Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve Chairman, yesterday.
We continue to face two-sided risks. In the committee's discussions at this meeting, there were strongly differing views about how to proceed in December. A further reduction in the policy rate at the December meeting is not a foregone conclusion. Far from it.
Yes, so also the Fed cut interest rates for the second time this year, but they rejected the large reduction sought by Trump, is the headline over at ABC News. All right, I think probably the top story has to be one of them, either the SNAP benefits being cut or healthcare prices, health insurance prices going up. My old friend Tom Foreman, who it really is a good friend and makes me want to reach out to him because this is a great explainer. He's still over at CNN explaining about the healthcare costs in a way that only Tom can on TV. It's about a 2-minute clip. I think it's really important and helpful. He was on yesterday with Wolf Blitzer on CNN.
Well, Wolf, a lot of people are getting sticker shock like they can't believe as we approach Halloween here. Talk about a frightening situation. The enrollment begins on November 1st. This is precisely what some lawmakers have been warning about throughout this shutdown. They're saying, look, this enrollment time is coming up, and unless this health care situation is fixed, a lot of people are going to get really hammered. And indeed, that's what it looks like is happening as we approach this enrollment time. 26% increase on average, you mentioned there. That's in the premiums for this, which affects tens of millions of people out there. But this is what's really important. When you mention the monthly payment expected to more than double at the end of subsidies, that's the enhanced subsidies that help people pay some of those premiums. So let's look at a real example here. For some people out there who might have been paying $888 for their care this year, next year, $1,904. You can imagine for a lot of people who don't have a lot of money, that is a real backbreaker. That's kind of a backbreaker for a lot of people who are doing fairly well. So that's the big worry here, that they're going to have this gigantic jump in the fee. That's just one example, but if you look at the median out there for this, and then if you look at the different categories, there are some people who will lose their insurance altogether because they simply won't be able to pay it. There will be other people who will get pounded by this, and then some other people may find a way around the edges. But, Wolf, this is really a big, big impact on a lot of folks out there who rely on this. Republicans, of course, have said through this shutdown, look, let's just get the government reopened, then we can talk about all of this. Democrats have basically said, we have leverage now, and by the way, the deadline is now. You need to address it now, because one of the real fears is that a lot of people who have been signing up for the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, whatever you want to call it, at record rates, that if they get pushed out now, they just won't come back. They will be scared away from the program, and they won't return. And there will be a real cost to the health of the country on top of this fiscal cost right now.
Well, that's really important, accurate reporting. And so I thought it was very interesting yesterday when at a press conference at the Health and Human Services Department, you had our human jack-o'-lantern, of course, RFK Jr., he was there, and Dr. Oz, which is just crazy that those two guys are running our healthcare, had to take this question from a smart reporter, and then he just lies. He lies that Kaiser, the nonprofit organization that analyzes healthcare costs and so much more, and it's kind of the gold standard, one of them, he says that they retracted this analysis that said healthcare costs are going to go up to 115%, but they didn't. It's a lie. Here it is.
You mentioned at the top that you want medications to be affordable, effective, and safe for Americans. We're speaking today on the day that window shopping began in the Affordable Care Act program on those marketplaces, and that shows that unless those tax credits are extended, those subsidies, the average plan will increase for Americans by somewhere around 115%. Do you believe that Congress should extend those subsidies so that most Americans do not receive significant increases in their premiums?
Where'd you get that 115% number from?
Kaiser Family Foundation.
They retracted that. That data was run inappropriately. They changed the messaging on it. Go back and look at the website. Here's the truth. The window shopping is already revealing that the average American is going to pay about, who's on the ACA, between 100 and 400% of poverty level, is going to pay $50 total next year. It's going to be $13 more than this year. So there can be a lot of hair pulling and scratching and mudslinging, but the fundamental reality for most Americans is that although it is an increase in spend, that's not the big issue. The big issue is the fundamental flaws within the ACA as they were created 15 years ago. We want government reopened so that we have people working, running the numbers, trying to help experts, actuarials, insurance company experts, to try to figure out more holistic ways of dealing with the bigger challenges that we face in America with increasing costs, which I don't think the enhanced premium tax subsidies, which were created for COVID, designed for COVID, they were short-term initially for a very, just a year, then extended until this year just to get through COVID. And I think we all agree that COVID has passed. So therefore, COVID-era subsidies should also pass.
Yeah, well, I looked that up real quick right away, and guess what? Not true. I know you're shocked, but one reporter who I trust said this is an incredible lie being told by the guy that manages the agency that oversees the Affordable Care Act. It's obscene how easily, how frequently, and how dramatically these Trump folks lie to us. Fact check from the extremely reliable KFF.org is that they did not retract this, and that ACA insurers are raising premiums by an estimated 26%, but most enrollees would see sharper increases in what they pay if the enhanced tax credits expire. So they're going up either way, but they're going up 115% if Republicans don't agree to extend these subsidies. All right, now for something a little bit different. This is Jennifer Welch on her podcast, just tearing apart this MAGA activist, anti-trans woman, Riley Gaines, who was a swimmer who complains a lot about that she lost to a trans man, and it seems like she never would have won that race anyway because she came in fifth. And she's been going back and forth, Riley Gaines, with AOC on Twitter, apparently. Well, here's Jennifer Welch, just lights her up, just doesn't care, calls her a twat and tells her to fuck off. I'm here for it.
One thing I want to say about Riley Gaines, as she sits there and has the moral high ground against AOC. When I look at people, if I were to say who's more Christ-like, I would pick AOC and the atheist Jew Bernie Sanders and the Muslim Zoran Mamdani a million times over you, Riley Gaines, because Riley Gaines, all you do is hate on people. You are wound up like a cheap clock over trans people. You show them no grace, no compassion. You defend billionaires. You cheer and celebrate when children are zip tied. And then you have the audacity to get on television and try to lecture people who fight for the people that are suffering, that stand and put their arms around people that need sanctuary. And you try to act like you're better than they are. You're an insufferable twat. Nobody likes you. And no matter what, you will always have been the dumb bitch that tied for 5th place. And the only place that you could get a job is at bottom feeder Fox News, you insufferable twat. Nobody likes you, except for the other fake Christians that enjoy in their spare time watching children get zip tied and then sit there and justify it while they read the Bible with their hideous crucifixes around their necks. So fuck you, Riley Gaines.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was a good rip. It was a good rant. I liked it. And now here's De Niro's new nonprofit or resistance movement type organization that he's gotten behind. I haven't vetted him or looked into him, but hey, take it away, Bobby.
We're all devastated by what's going on in our country. I can't tell you how inspiring it was to see millions of people take to the streets. But we have to do much more.
Non-violent soldier of freedom.
At Defiance, you can join a community of courageous people and find out about other peaceful ways to fight back.
Powerful moral force.
Together, we will defy leaders who govern by stupidity, corruption, and vengeance. Defy attacks on our fellow Americans because of what they believe or where they came from. Take the next step by going to defiance.org to rescue our country and defy being ruled by a mad king. The time for standing by is over. The time for defiance is now.
Let's get fired up! We are fired up!
Yeah, there you go. That's De Niro and his new organization he's getting behind, and we'll look into him. Here is Gavin Newsom. He is the governor of California, and he's giving Joe Biden credit here in this clip, but saying a lot of important stuff, so I always love a good Gavin clip these days.
It's a revolution that's going on in this country, and I think you have to start using those words. He's attacking every single institution of independent thinking, and he's succeeding because we're still playing by the old set of rules. And so my party needs to focus first and foremost on recognizing that. And then we'll reconcile being more culturally normal, more reform-oriented, talk about service and patriotism. And we'll continue to build on the legacy, I would argue, of our former president, who I think was one of the most successful presidents in the last century, and that is Joe Biden. And I will defend that till my grave. In terms of the CHIPS and Science Act, the infrastructure bill, the work he did on the IRA, the fact that he had a worker-centered industrial policy, and the fact that those are the right policies for this country.
They're all getting undone, right? I mean, everything.
A lot of them, but not, well, many aspects are being celebrated by the Trump administration as his.
Yeah, many aspects are being celebrated as his. He's taking credit for all the good things Biden did and getting rid of the things that he didn't like. Now, here is MSNBC's Ana Cabrera talking to national security analyst Ken Ladanian about a very important development. I didn't mention this in the headline, so I'll just let him explain it, because this is more evidence of the Trump regime trying to erase the history of January 6th and punish those who would still refer to it as a riot, those still working in government or Department of Justice or anywhere. Listen to this report.
Another potential purge at the Justice Department. 2 prosecutors are on leave now after pursuing a prison sentence for a pardoned January 6th rioter who was convicted after carrying illegal guns outside former President Obama's house 2 years after the Capitol attack, so unrelated to January 6th. Joining us now is MSNBC Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delanian. Ken, what more are we learning about this decision and the case at the heart of it?
Good morning, Anna. This appears to be another example of the attempt by the White House to rewrite the history of January 6th, because what appears to be at issue here is this sentencing memo. These 2 prosecutors referred to the January 6th attack as a riot. They referred to the defendant here as one of the rioters who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. And that is the kind of language that the White House doesn't like, because they are arguing that that was not a riot on January 6th. And so, as you said, this man was convicted of a separate offense. He was pardoned by Donald Trump for his role in January 6th, but then arrested because he brought illegal guns to Barack Obama's house in Washington, D.C., and he was convicted of that and also of threatening to bomb a government building. And last night, these 2 line prosecutors in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, D.C., wrote a sentencing memo explaining his conduct and calling for the judge to impose a 27-month prison sentence. But they also included that paragraph about the Capitol riots. And they were locked out of their offices and devices. They were walked out of the U.S. Attorney's Office. They've been placed on administrative leave. And this, the news of this move is reverberating around the Justice Department. And it's another warning that you can't, as a prosecutor, tell what you believe is the truth about the January 6th riots without having some risk to your future and your job on it.
Yeah, well, that's an important development. But the next clip is of the great Kirk Cameron. I've never played Kirk Cameron on the show, but when he says something I certainly really think is worth playing, worth listening to, and not necessarily going to trigger you and miss or disinform you, I'll play it. Yesterday, I played this UFC fighter saying he's no longer on the Trump train. Kirk Cameron certainly didn't say that. I don't know where he is vis-a-vis Trump. I'm sure he supports him, but he hosts a very popular, independent show like I do now. Although I wasn't Michael Seaver in a sitcom, I don't have that kind of credibility. That being said, Kirk Cameron is a very religious Christian nationalist, and he is worried about what Trump is doing, and concerned that if he takes this power, if we give the president this much power, and then a new president comes in, guess what? No more homeschooling. Take it away, Kirk.
President Trump says he's sending the National Guard to stop violent crime, protect federal agents, and defend cities that seem out of control. He even said that he might invoke the Insurrection Act. That's kind of ironic, right? Remember January 6th? They called that an insurrection. But that Insurrection Act is a law that allows a president to deploy the military here on American soil. And it's a power that is extreme. It's meant for true emergencies like rebellion, like invasion or anarchy, not just everyday unrest. We need to think about tomorrow. If one president can decide who is a threat, what happens when the next president decides that you are? What if a future president, a far-left president, declares that Christians, homeschoolers, and conservative voices are domestic extremists? Would we have any moral ground left to stand on when those same powers are turned on us?
I'm saying I'm seeing cracks. There's cracks. I think it's good. I think it's good that that UFC fighter thinks that he's the Antichrist and that Kirk Cameron is questioning this kind of power grab. And anytime folks that look at them or listen to them hear it, I think it's good. Little rays of light, green shoots. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting a little too ahead of myself. But because you still got absolute crazy people like the lieutenant governor of Indiana, who sounds real dumb. And this is a real upsetting clip to hear someone with that much power say and just create his own American history. But here it is yesterday. From a guy I wouldn't trust around my kids. Here's a guy named Micah Beckwith.
We are a Christian nation, but we are increasingly becoming a non-Christian people. So a Christian government, a Christian value system, so the Judeo-Christian ethic, the Decalogue, Leviticus 19, Blackstone's common law was taken right from Scripture. Our founders took right from that to create the system of governance. It's all based in the Judeo-Christian ethic. So while someone like an Ilhan Omar is welcome to be here legally, that does not mean she has a right to change the foundations of this nation. That the Supreme Court just ruled in the Kennedy case that longstanding historical tradition is the constitutional precedent. So what's the longstanding historical tradition in America? It's Christian values. It was not rooted in Islam. It was not rooted in socialism, Marxism. It was rooted in Christian, Judeo-Christian ethic and capitalism. And so when a socialist Marxist like Mandami tries to force his values onto New York, I would say, no, you're not welcome to do that, because the longstanding historical tradition is constitutional. What you're bringing is something new. You're trying to remove the foundation.
Yikers Island, I am not a fan. No, thank you. I've had enough. Mercy. I give up. I liked what Jennifer Welch had to say about how Zoran is more Christian than that guy. All right, finally, I've got some jokes for you before we get to my conversation with Ophira. Let's go to Kimmel last night.
Just about every day I have a moment where I think, things are terrible. This government's been shut down for like a month. The Republicans are trying to force Congress to choose between health care and food to open it up. We've got a bunch of ghouls running the country. Prices are high. People are suffering. And just when you start to think, well, it couldn't get any worse than this, God throws a curveball like this one.
Tonight, the urgent search for dangerous research monkeys that escaped from the wreckage of a crash on a Mississippi highway.
We got 21 monkeys that was on this, got 5 on the run.
Here's one of the monkeys right here. There's one sitting right there.
At least 6 monkeys escaping. Officials warning they might be aggressive towards people and were potentially infected with hepatitis C, herpes, and COVID.
Hepatitis, herpes, and COVID. Who are these monkeys hanging out with? Charlie Sheen? 3 of the monkeys are still on the loose, including the one that was driving the truck. So please, if you're in the Mississippi area, be on the lookout. Meanwhile, there's an angry orangutan on the loose in South Korea. President Furious George was in Cheongju today as part of his Asia Palooza tour, and they're keeping him happy by giving him presents everywhere he goes, including a doozy from the president of South Korea.
And then Kimmel plays the presentation of a crown that the South Korean gave to Trump during their meeting. But I cut it out, so here Kimmel picks back up.
How nice. I guess they were watching millions of us marching to say we didn't want a king, and they thought, hey, I have a great idea for a gift. A bejeweled crown. It's so embarrassing how easy he is to manipulate. It's like when you give kids Pokemon cards to get them to behave. A golf bag, a putter, a medal, and now a crown.
Yeah, I love it. And here's a few more jokes from Seth Meyers, Late Night with Seth Meyers last night.
South Korean President Lee Jae-myung hosted President Trump today for lunch, which included seafood salad tossed in Thousand Island dressing. And long story short, now there's a 400% tariff on Korea.
The is this?
During his address yesterday to U.S. troops in Japan, President Trump said that it has been less than 1 year since he won the 2024 election and added, quote, it doesn't feel that way. No, it really doesn't. In fact, I can't remember a time when you weren't president. You're like Jack Torrance in The Shining. You've just always been here. During his address yesterday to the U.S. sailors in Japan aboard the USS George Washington, President Trump danced with the crowd to the song YMCA. Yes, it's just too bad that the village people didn't have any songs about being in the Navy. During the same address, President Trump also said that the Navy rallies to that immortal battle cry of the American sailor, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. Well, it's certainly catchier than our new battle cry.
No more beardos.
Well said. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced this week that the U.S. carried out strikes on vessels in the Pacific Ocean that were allegedly carrying drugs. I mean, one look at the captain and it was obvious.
Picture of Johnny Depp as Pirates of the Caribbean.
President Trump announced yesterday that Toyota has promised to invest $10 billion in U.S. manufacturing plants and said, quote, go out and buy a Toyota. All right, first you wanted us all to buy Teslas. Now you're pushing Toyotas. He's like a salesman who keeps getting demoted. Pretty soon he's gonna be out on the White House lawn yelling, you gotta get yourself a Schwinn. According to analysts, the annual average price of gold will reach a record high next year of more than $4,000 per ounce because someone is hoarding it.
Picture of Trump, all the gold in the White House.
President Trump said on Monday that he took another cognitive test during his recent trip to Walter Reed Medical Center and added, quote, the first couple of questions are easy. A tiger, an elephant, a giraffe, you know. Oh, buddy, I think that may have just been a book in the waiting room. 5 New Jersey towns have plans to reschedule Halloween trick-or-treating for October 30th. This only a few months after the 4th of July was rescheduled for most of June and half of July. And finally, in an effort to prevent Halloween parties and rentals, Airbnb this week announced it will take new proactive measures, including anti-party technology. So now every house will come with an acoustic guitar.
Yeah, he's like, I think I'm going to go home. I cut it off, though. All right, Seth Meyers, very funny. And speaking of funny, it's time to get to my guest today. It's Ophira Eisenberg. Yeah, you know her. You love her. She's a regular here on the show. She's joined us at Pod Jam in Las Vegas for the last 2 years. She is a podcaster, a storyteller, a talk show host, a writer. She hosted NPR's comedy trivia show, Ask Me Another, for 9 years. And she is regularly headlining across the country, Canada, Europe. She's also, of course, Canadian. She's Jewish. She's a 2-time cancer survivor. And she's going to be recording a new album in New York City on November 9th. I'm going to be there. Really looking forward to going and seeing Ophira. She's one of my all-time favorite people, comedians, and I always love catching up with her. We had a great conversation a couple days ago. You can watch it on YouTube, youtube.com/StandUpWithPete. Hundreds of you did, and I'm glad that you did. I was glad to see you there live. And if you want to watch those interviews, they're all up there on youtube.com/StandUpWithPete. If I was live, it's under a little tab that says live, by the way. But either way, you can watch me there anytime, and I'm very glad to have her here right now. Ladies and gentlemen, the always amazing Ophira Eisenberg. And by the way, just to explain how this conversation started, we were live, and I had this countdown on the screen that I was experimenting with, and it counted down 1 minute. And then I was supposed to pop on, and then I was going to introduce her, but I failed, and the countdown ended, and it was just Ophira. She looked confused for a second, as she should be, and then I pop on and straighten it out, and then we had a laugh, but that's what happened, and I left it in, because I thought if I explained it, you would be able to laugh along with us if you didn't see it live. Here we go. I screwed it up.
You did?
You see me screw it up?
You mean just that little tiny thing at the end?
Well, yeah, you did the countdown, and then like it was just you, and then there was like an empty seat, and then there was me.
I was like, oh, it starts on me. How amazing. And I was sort of like, because the music is very like, takes you through it, and at the end it does get very zen. So I was like, oh, okay. I'm getting centered.
I swear to God. Well, that's the first time I've done that, and I'm really trying to figure it out, but I'm trying to do it in front of everybody because failure barely matters anymore, and people just get a kick out of it.
It's hilarious. I love it. And it's very, do you remember like in like old, I don't think I saw this at the movies, but there used to be a thing at the movies where it'd be like a little clock going, and it would be like, I love that.
That's what that's the idea. You go live and then you let people come in for like a minute or so.
Yeah. Grab their snacks.
You think they brought snacks to this?
Everyone should have a couple snacks.
Great. I got a drink. It's great to see you. I'm drinking a coffee that I brewed this morning at home, and I'm really happy to see you. I'm very excited for your new comedy special taping. You'll be doing live Sunday, November 9th in New York City. I will be in the audience cheering you on, laughing in a way that you're supposed to laugh at a live taping.
Which means inauthentically.
Well, a little bit, a little bit. You let out. You make sure your head is up and aiming towards the microphones. I was a warm-up comic forever. I literally had to explain to people how to laugh.
Did you really? I never even thought of that.
Every night at a live, I'd explain to them this is a live taping, and you really have to hit them over the head with explaining that you're here to be recorded, to hear your laugh. So definitely, I hope they make that point. Somebody makes that point. I'll go back them up.
Do they make you put your? I mean, did you literally said put your head, like lift your chin and let the?
Sure, I did like a bit, and then I would make fun of them all looking like birds.
Yeah, caca. Yeah, all right.
Laughing at the microphone. Well, I'm very excited for that. I'm very excited to see you here. Thanks. Are you ready for this new taping? Are you doing like an hour, or what are you doing?
I'm doing an hour. I went and I've recorded it once in a like little rehearsal setting, and I thought it was close, but man, when you put your act under sort of the microscope where you're like, how's this line? You see all the holes, because I think as performers, we can get away with so much. We will, we'll sell it. We can do all kinds of things to move through moments. And then when you're really analyzing them, I'm like, wow, that is not an ending. I've been doing it.
You made it sound like watching and reviewing your stuff. You find the little problems, but in this case, you're like, "Oh, that was not even a joke."
Oh yeah, totally not even a joke. And sometimes speed just covers it up. You're like, "Moving on, everybody, we're moving on."
Well, I'm excited at this point. I'm sure you've got it down, and I'm very excited to watch and see you perform. You've been traveling all over the country. I know you've seen a few stand-up listeners.
I know it's the best.
Mutual supporters, fans, listeners of ours. You are our friend Mindy in Indianapolis. Kathy in Minnesota, where she's on the Board of Education. Really awesome people, of course.
I know. Both times it was such, just the nicest, and even hung out with Mindy and a few of her friends.
Yeah,
which was cool. I would have seen Kimmer, but she was on a cruise because I was in her neck of the woods as well.
People in Iowa, I think they go on, like people in those landlocked states. I bet you there's a higher percentage of them that are cruisers.
Right, because they're like, water is so cool. Can you imagine a thing on a water?
Yeah. I think they fantasize about it in their landlocked state. I
do. Yeah, I do have to say, because with all those places I was recently traveling were landlocked, and not to say that New York sushi is caught in the Hudson River. I know everything is flown in, but there is something about like, hey, do you want to go for some sushi in this suburb of Minneapolis? That I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah, I always thought that was the case. When it came to any seafood, the further you got away from the sea, the less fresh it was, until I learned about flash freezing and air transport. I don't know what I'm talking about.
But no, it's true. Like none of the stuff in New York is local. Let's just be clear. None of it.
Where have you been traveling around? You mentioned earlier we were talking, you mentioned that you're feeling guilt because you haven't been home enough with your almost 10-year-old son, and we can talk. But where have you been? What have you been doing?
Okay, so I was it's this last week, in the last 7 days, I came back from the Minnesota little tour, and I went to Plattsburgh, New York.
Oh,
Plattsburgh. There's a place you have to take a ferry. You got to go into Burlington, take a ferry to go over to Plattsburgh.
Yeah.
You know what? Plattsburgh is a hotbed. It's I don't know what the population is, but every cafe I went to still has a hippie vibe. Everyone was talking about, seriously, the New York election. They were talking about emissions. They were talking about, obviously the state of the government and feeling very sad. But I was like, oh, everyone here is very hippie, very political. Plattsburgh is like basically a border town, so they're really thinking about
What were you doing there?
What I know, thank you. That's really what the title of my entire life should be. What? But you have to say it that way. What were you doing there? I was doing a show for 800 nurses because there's a huge hospital there.
Wow.
That is well regarded and I think has a lot of very progressive research and testing facilities and diagnoses and treatments. And so and by nurses, I mean, it was women. It was some, not doctors, but it was definitely other people in the medical field. And it was a girls' night out for people specifically there.
So you've been doing this separate from your stand-up show, this one woman show that you've been doing.
Oh God, all things
versions all over. Like, is that what are you doing that? Because I feel like you've been to a couple places with that show, including Iowa.
Yeah, no, I'm an idiot. I did 4 different types of shows.
Yikes.
In like 2 weeks. I did the one person show that was just the other day in Bozeman, Montana. Then I'm just doing straight stand up with the Bums Unhinged and other stuff. And this one was straight stand up, a little bit more corporate clean because it was for the nurses, a little bit more of a, I don't know, like they just had some more limitations and some stuff for the Jews as I do. And then I hosted a couple moth shows. So I just flip, baby. I just flip.
That's crazy that you can just rotate out an hour of dialogue and jokes and stories. I mean, it's impressive. It's really impressive. Well, good for you. That's awesome. Yeah.
I think when I listened to a podcast, when I got up at 3 a.m. in the morning to hit the road so I could make the 6 a.m. flight because I had to drive a little while, and I thought, let's put in a podcast so I don't lose my mind. I realized from that podcast, kind of self-helpy podcast, that it's called overwhelm. What I'm doing, it's called overwhelm. And then you come home, and because you're a parent, it's not like you come home and you're like, I'll just relax for a little while.
Well, it's
like boom.
Well, I mean, one of the things is that you have to spread your wings. You have to adapt to the market. And if you want to work as much as you want to and need to work, you have to have these different types of shows and gigs to do. You really have to be like a utility player to make a good living, which you do. You do really well as anybody out there. But yeah, it sounds like it's a lot.
Swiss Army knife. It's a Swiss Army knife. I know. And, to your point, I don't know how things are going. I can't predict economic trends. I can't predict how the job market of entertainment is going to reflect on me. I can't predict any of this stuff, as it turns out. So I just go look at the stuff that's in front of you and see if you can do it.
Well,
I mean, I'm taking this comedy special coming up in 2 years. Are we doing comedy specials? I don't know. Maybe everything will be 30-second clips. Pete, I don't know.
Yeah, it's fascinating what's gone on with the industry of comedy, which simply put in my mind is it's no longer that the funniest people that you can watch are stand-up comedians doing stand-up comedy specials or at comedy club. It's that everybody's hilarious and everybody has access to show off their humor. And I mean that. I'm not even being cynical. Like, people are hilarious, just ordinary people doing sketches and skits and pranks and
my God. And the quality, like they're spending time editing, or they figured out a really good AI editor maybe. But I mean, yeah, the quality, like, I know, I feel like my son is going to know how to make a feature film just by, I don't know,
TikTok.
Fooling around by the time he's 12, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do almost everything on your phone, although it's annoying to try to edit something on that small little screen, in my opinion, because I'm
totally annoying.
But yeah, it'll be fascinating to see where the entertainment business in general goes. It's a real wild tiger to be riding. I can't imagine, like, I'm pretty happy with the fact that I'm just barreling straight ahead with my daily podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Doing everything else I can do, but really invested everything in this. Maybe I'm too scared to kind of broaden my horizons and put so many other things out there, because you just have no idea what's going to work, where to go. And
this takes so much work as it is. It's, sometimes I just go, well, I have the diversify your portfolio kind of approach to my live career, but that is also because, whatever. I would never say no to a moth gig. That's such a fun interesting thing to do. I learn so much from those gigs because I really do hear stories from people that I've never met before from all around this country that are doing wild things, interesting things. I never want to say no to a stand-up gig because, you know, honestly, as a woman of my age, I just go, and that's amazing. They still like me. It's amazing. Take it. And then, you know, I put together this solo show, which is all about trauma and, you know, accepting your trauma, accepting your scars and going through it. I'm like, I want an opportunity to do that. And I like going to these places right now because the world is so strange. And I got to tell you, in Minnesota, I mean, not only to your point of comedy, let me just say I was a club in California was like, hey, do you want to play this club? And I was like, sure, but I don't want a Thursday. Can I have a weekend? And they actually said, unless you have 250,000 followers on Instagram, we can't book you.
Oh, wow. So that's just the straight up rule that you hear on that artists, performers, talented veterans who are super good at doing what they do, like you, they just straight up tell you or your reps, unless you have this many Instagram followers, you're not doing the weekend. Because we can book some guy who does sock puppets. He has 25 million. Or that guy who runs really fast and high speed. He's good probably to book.
And trust me, they're still paying everyone a devalued rate. It's not even that guy is cleaning up.
Yes, so that's the thing I don't want to have to.
Right. So that's really annoying too. It's like no one wants to.
It's maddening. You work so hard on your craft and you can't, and you've been doing it for years, and some schmuck is got 25 million followers for some real hokey shtick, and give him credit because he puts a lot of work into that edit or whatever he's doing. But still, no, it's maddening. I would make me very cynical to compete with that.
But it does. But at the same time, I go, well, I don't want to go to that club because those are not going to be my people to be. I mean, if I just can rent a room and bring my people in, why wouldn't I just do that?
Right. So that's what you're trying to focus on.
I mean, I would just go like, all right, all my friends, buy a bottle of wine and show up on this corner. Like, I don't know. I don't want to go to that club.
I love it. And I hate it. But it's all changing. So any interesting experiences in these places when you talk about like the way that America is and the way things are and the way people are, and you watch the news from the comfort of your own home, i.e. me, and you see all these things that are happening, and you see these different kinds of people. You see a lot of, Trumpers living in blue states, a lot of liberal, living in red states that are scared and uncomfortable in both places. And it's hard to know who you're surrounded by. And does it feel like when you're traveling that there's two teams?
Yeah. And I was at a little after show kind of party, whatever. It was just, we were grabbing some food, but there were different people there who had friends that lived in the town, and they brought them together. And it was very clear once we started talking that these people were Democrats and these people were Republicans. It was so clear. And this is the new tell that someone is Republican caught in the middle of a Democratic conversation, and they're trying not to be rude. Okay. They say this. Well, I just think the two sides aren't listening to each other anymore.
Oh, God.
That's the tell. That's the tell. I was like, oh, got it. God, you mean we're not making space for you.
It's like it's a de-escalation technique, but to me it comes off as just like weak. I immediately got irked by it because I feel like I've heard everything they have to say and always knew, and have always been annoyed by this idea that we don't listen to them, because I grew up with them. I grew up there. Like I'm never surprised by their views on anything because I am them. So I don't need to listen to them. I got out of there. I lived in New York. I rode the subway
with the immigrants. So it also seems that in all of those places that I went to, the number one thing people are feeling very dramatic, emotional about is immigrants. And they don't like them. They don't like them. Those criminals. And I even had one person tell me straight up, like, I don't even know how, it was wild. They were like, I was looking at the ICE website because they're recruiting. Do you know how much money you could get?
Yeah.
They were like, I need money. I don't know. I was like, maybe I could help solve some of the problems. I was like,
Tell them they have to be able to do 15 push-ups. Is that literally there's a news headline that says ICE can't get people to join because people can't do 15 push-ups and 1.5 miles in under 15 minutes. They can't do it, and so they're struggling to get recruits. Thank God, but yeah, they're paying people a fortune, and I mean, it's crazy. So you're saying though that like everywhere you go, people you're seeing people angry about the quote illegals, the immigrants, and they're okay with, or even worse, happy seeing them be torn from their families or beaten up on the street or harassed in their cars. Like, I
feel like the same thing happens every time, is where if you bring that up, they go, that's not really happening. Right?
Oh,
so
really?
yeah, they think there's some version happening, but it's not that one. And then you just go, and then that's the sad thing, right? Then you start going like, well, what footage are you watching? And the whole thing disintegrates. I had someone say to me, oh, well, my daughter lives in Washington, D.C. And I was like, oh, yeah, how is that with the National Guard out and all of that? And she said, well, she feels a lot safer now.
Yeah, it's true. It's a true thing. It's a true feeling for a lot of people. And it becomes a question for anyone about trading freedom for security. And we had that debate after 9/11 for sure. And we made all kinds of compromises. But the weird thing is it's often white people that are feeling safer, and brown, black people or poor people that are feeling targeted. But sometimes black people in certain communities, are like, oh, we like more law enforcement here. I've heard from a lot of those types of folks in DC as well. But still, I don't know. I was just trying to explain how people feel about that, but I'm horrified by it, obviously.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I am too. And then also, actually, this was also in Minnesota, the talk about the immigrants, and they said, they just shouldn't be illegal. And I go, do you know how hard it is to get legal? And they were like, I didn't know. I go, okay, well, I'll tell you right now, I was illegal for a little while. Oh, which dear. Then they were like, where are you from, Nicaragua? They can't figure out that Canada, because that still seems weird. So, but anyways, and then I just explained that, you have to get an immigration lawyer. It's not an easy process. And I even had it easier because I was going in on for a job. And I said, it still cost me $20,000 and took years. And that was a long time ago. I'm sure all of these things are dialed up. And they said, oh, I had no idea. And I was like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. People have no idea about the immigration system. They also don't have any idea about the history. Most Americans don't, but I know because I covered it every day for years at CNN and SiriusXM, the history of immigration reform attempts, the history of Congress trying to pass laws that would make it easier, that would recognize, for example, people who are kids who were brought here when they're like little, 4 or 5, they call them dreamers. Yes. Their parents, that would allow them to work and live here and step out of the shadows. But it's obviously, everybody says this. We know that this is about control. It's about trying to get us comfortable with law enforcement on the street. And at worst, and you hear this from Gavin Newsom and maybe Pritzker, you don't have to hear it from me. It's about the elections. It's about, somehow calling off the election and putting, making people feel like there's chaos in the streets, even though there's inflatables. What do you make of
that? Was the best. I love that. So brilliant. So brilliant. Just a panda having a good time in the sun with a light message.
I love it. I
love it too. I think it's so smart. It's perfect. It is honestly one of the most perfect things.
Yeah, it really is. As a reaction to authoritarianism, the inflatable frog thrusting and gyrating in a sexual way to the ICE members holding the line at a detention facility.
It's amazing. And to the security end, I do a lot of fundraisers throughout the years for Jewish organizations, community centers, sometimes temples. And I will tell you, the the fundraisers usually, sometimes I'm there where they kind of do a breakdown like, hey, we really want to raise a considerable amount of money because we're looking for money for the early education, money for our preschool, money for our community events, money for, helping. There's always a lot of like helping, the underserved. They try to do a lot of that. But these last ones, half of the money they're trying to raise is for private security.
Yeah.
What a waste. I just go, what a waste. What a waste.
You are Canadian and have views on what is happening, and it is happening again. Trump just had a tantrum because the Ottawa government put out an ad using an actual quote, not a made-up quote, of Ronald Reagan being critical of tariffs. And so Trump sees this ad that Ottawa puts out, and then the entire country gets shivved because the Ottawans, I guess. I don't know. I wonder how they see it. Regardless, Trump woke up and said, that's it. It's over. I'm pissed. And I don't like that ad. You guys are dicks. And 10% more tariffs or whatever. I saw the very calm and calculated Prime Minister Mark Carney. I played him commenting on his way to Asia about it. And it's just like, what is happening in Canada? And what's the view from up north? What do you hear?
All I know is that you don't want to piss off Canadians, man. You really don't, because they've never been pissed off before. And it's like all brand new. And I don't know if you've seen what people are like the first time they do something, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So, I mean, they ran that ad too during a baseball game, right?
Oh, was it during the World Series yet? Because Toronto is playing right now against the LA Dodgers. So it's like a Canadian. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
It was not the last game. It was the one before that where they creamed the Dodgers. And so they played it. So that is like, it's so like, to borrow a word, like it's so triply trolling. It's kind of amazing. And, no one I know, I do audiences here in New York, and there's a number of Canadians here. I would say it's definitely less, but most people I know are like, I'm never visiting that country again. They don't care. They're still hardcore, not buying the products. They are very much like, we're just going to figure out other things, whatever. So we spend a little bit more money buying stuff from Mexico or Argentina or different places in Europe. I mean, not to say that these are all easy solutions. All of this is very complex, but there is a way of that I've never seen Canadians before just be like, yeah, whatever. A very prominent, like our kind of Jon Stewart, this great guy, Trent McKellen, did a whole ad, that little sketch that went viral where he's not an ICE agent, he's a NICE agent. And he's going up to American travelers and he's like, hey, let me see your phones. He's all dressed up and he's like, oh, is that your grandson? And they're taking selfies. And he's like, do you have any illegal products on you? Do you have any illegal marijuana? And they're like, no. And he goes, because there's some good dispensaries here. There's one down the corner. That's one of my favorites. And, it's just like that kind of thing is just, it's like Canada's embracing how they've always been made fun of and just going for it.
I found it. Trent McKellen. That's a hilarious idea. And there's so much right now to talk about in terms of satire and humor and the role that it plays. You and I haven't talked in a while, but from the Jimmy Kimmel suspension to then a whole bunch of comedians going to Saudi Arabia. I mean, there's a lot to talk about in terms of what comedians are doing, but just your general view on, we've already talked about it a little bit, the role that you're seeing like humor and satire play. Like, to me, it's like, this is what we read about in the history books. And from that Canadian Instagram comedian to stand-up comics in New York, the late night comedians and everywhere else on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, nobody is like pulling back. People are leaning in. The South Park guys, I guess, are the highest profile.
Oh, so great. So great. So, I mean, on one level, I will just say, on one level, I think it's amazing. On another level, there are so many things that I'm doing right now were right before the organizer or whatever will come and be like, hey, just like, if you guys could tone down the political stuff, like we're all just trying to have a good time here. And you're like, oh shit. 'Cause you know what that means.
Well,
it doesn't mean, I mean, I assume what it means.
Well, it means that a certain high percentage of the people in that audience would be offended by your anti-fascist or anti-Trump or anti-authoritarian or anti-whatever you want to call it.
You know, and I feel I don't have a lot. I have like a little tiny, especially the stuff I was doing recently. I have very small references to being. If you would have to be pretty smart to even catch it, and I just hope that my audience is smart. But then sometimes, like I recently did a show where right at the very beginning, I said to a woman, oh, you have a 9-year-old son. What is one adjective you would use to describe a 9-year-old? And she said, I don't know what an adjective is.
Oh, wow.
And I said, you're going to have a hard time with my act. That was the first 45 seconds of this particular show. And then I was just like, oh, it's not even like, don't be political. Like, don't talk above a 5th grade level.
You think audiences are dumber than they've ever been?
I think they're drunker than they've ever been. And,
do you really think that? Are people like just generally, are they drinking more? And
yeah, I do. I do think so. Yeah.
Are you getting old?
No. Right. Well, that's funny. You know what? Good point, my friend. Because the younger ones below 30, I would say, they're not drinking. That's the whole problem.
I think it's a matter of how much you're drinking, and because if you drink less, you notice that other people are drinking more. So I think
I'm fine.
You're drinking less, maybe.
I'm fine.
All right, let's have some fun because we always do, and we are. But I just love hearing you like go off on and complain about anything. That's why I love following you on Instagram and watching your act and everything. But I know that you just took your son, who's about to be 10, to one of the biggest kind of indoor mall places and maybe in the world, certainly in the East Coast. It's in New Jersey. And it's got like the water slide in it. It's a giant mall. I think it's also the one that my daughters would go skiing indoors in. I've never been there.
Yes.
American dream to have a ski slope inside of it. And it's like a great like indoor amusement park kind of thing. Is that right?
I mean, beyond. That's like, I can't even, I had no idea what I was going. But yeah, it's an indoor amusement park. But it's like straight. Everything is an amusement.
So let me get this straight. You hated it?
Okay. So listen, we went onto the water slide, but the idea and we had a good time on the water slide. I'm there for my son to have a good time, and I enjoy water slide, but let me just be clear. The idea of this place, calling like the ultimate capitalist indoor biodome of of like
water and
food courts and simulated reality in spaces that are literally just concrete bunkers that we've dressed up is like hell. That is utopian hell. Kurt Vonnegut's like that's where a Kurt Vonnegut story begins.
That's the exact same observation that I think a lot of us have while we enjoy it to the other.
While we enjoy it. So we, and just amazed by design. We got in there. None of the maps really, first, just that thing that we live in this insanely buggy digital age that is completely free of information because none of the things, so everything's like, hey, here's a huge thing in the middle of the mall where you can find where you're going, but it's touchscreen, but really you have to use your phone to get a QR code. And then there's going to be a map that is like about, 1 inch by 1 inch on your phone that just has a thing, but you don't know what direction is what. Like, just give me a paper map. So there was that. So but I think it's by design that you're lost. So my favorite complete waste of money, so indulgent and insane is that you can rent by the minute, $1 a minute, a sort of large stuffed animal that is on wheels and has pedals, and you get on it and you ride the stuffed animal throughout the mall.
Yeah. That seems to me like a thing that Asian and Eastern European people should do at their little carnivals.
So the one thing I love about it is that no one can figure out, like, this is what I love about capitalism. Like, at some level, you try to charge every second, right? You're trying to put all these boundaries on it for profit. So you're trying to charge every second. It's $1 a minute. You know, it's so ridiculous. Obviously, it's so enticing. Who doesn't want to do this? The minutes are small, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You throw your kid on this thing. What is someone going to run after them with a stopwatch? They can't figure out how to get these kids back. Also, where are they riding? They're just riding through a packed mall. Most of these kids have never been behind any kind of wheel that has an assist. So they're crashing into carts. My kid was crashing into the carts that are selling like the
Did he like it?
Oh, they loved it. Are you kidding?
It goes pretty slow though.
Fast enough.
I mean, we had a horse. You put a quarter in, and it was a machine. We out in front of a strip
I
mall.
loved that. Yeah,
you had that, I guess, and then you had the one. Yeah, that was what we had.
That was it. I loved those. Oh my God, I used to go crazy for those. Yeah,
you like those?
Yeah. So now you're rolling through the whole packed mall. I mean, my kid totally smashed into someone, and he said, "Get away from me, you little shit!"
No.
And then he rode back to me, and he was like, "Mom," and I was like, "Yeah, don't bum into people, I guess." But none of these kids can maneuver it.
You saw the grown man say it, or he?
No, I didn't. He came back and told me. But he said SH*T because that's how he's learning. Swear.
If I saw somebody say that to my daughter when they were little, I would have smacked the shit out of them.
Oh yeah. No, I totally missed it because I was like, oh my God. They were like, it's 10 minutes. And I was like, I don't know where these kids are because they have like gone off on elephants and tigers into your mall. What am I supposed to run after them? So the chaos of it made me laugh so hard because I was like, it's totally breaking down. This whole thing is breaking down right now. And that is when I feel better.
I mean, in a weird kind of way, it's almost like anything where your kid is not on a screen is better than if they are. I feel like that's the simple binary that parents, especially with younger kids, you know, if I had it to do over again, certainly would do even less. We were okay, but we weren't, you know, once they get the phone,
dude,
they just get sucked. It's it.
Let me tell you. My two biggest guilts as a parent right now, I think about all the time, is of course the age that I had my child, just because, I mean, even though sometimes when things are really hard, I can be like, well, at least for me, death is near.
You were 52.
Yeah, I was 52. And then the other thing is the screens, how much screens I give him and how when he's on the screen, you know, there's no, it's obsessed, like can't get his attention. Everything else could fall away. But listen, I was thinking about this the other night in a bar where I was just sitting there by myself for a few minutes. I was like, maybe these things will work together for me in the near future. Like maybe when I'm close to death, Pete, I can just hand him his iPad and he won't notice.
Because you're worried about him being sad.
Yeah.
So you say to cure his sadness, you just give him a screen.
Yeah, and like I'll die, and maybe he'll notice a couple.
I mean,
months.
It works for me.
Yeah. I
was sad last week, and I just turned on Netflix. I was like,
see?
Again. When my dog died, I went to see Superman.
Yeah, maybe my casket should be a Nintendo Switch.
Well, maybe you should teach your son that suffering is a normal, regular part of life. God damn it.
Yeah, don't worry. Life is going to teach him that. I don't have to get in the way of that.
Exactly. I mean, let me just ask you this, though. You obviously host a parenting podcast. To me, it's the most interesting conversation or topic about parenting is the screens and the relationship with the screen.
Everyone's just fighting it.
My understanding from pediatricians and teachers and people who work with kids and see a new crop every year or 2 years that each cohort basically is getting worse by the measure of they're not good at being bored to the point where they have behavioral issues like when they don't have the screen to mollify them or distract them, they get sad. They have all the negative feelings. They don't know what to do, and they act out. Have you seen that? Does that happen to your son? Do you see it with other kids?
Absolutely. Oh my God. We like get in a car yesterday. The ride from our house to American Dream, where all the dreams are made, is 1 hour. And he gets in with his friend and they're both like, can we play the Nintendo? Can we play the Nintendo? And I said, no, you're going to do conversation. And first they just yelled boo for about 3 minutes straight.
So they did do conversation, but they only had a few words.
They only could do a few words. And then all of a sudden it happened, but I heard a lot about canon, superhero canon. I mean, it was some real nerdy shit was happening there. So
you think that as a result, it limits their ability to have a dialogue? And doesn't it get worse when they end up just having a dialogue with their robot friend?
That's what I'm scared of the most.
Maybe it gets better. I don't know.
I know the robot will understand me.
Well, it's a conversation, like it's a conversation without having to worry about judgment. And a lot of people, just get anxious in dialogue. And,
True.
And when it's a robot, it's just your best friend, and it tells you what you want to hear too, like a lot of best friends.
Just like a lot of best friends. And if you correct it, it says stuff like "my bad," just like best friends. I have a thing. I asked ChatGPT to write some marketing documents for me because it's my hardest thing and it will take me 1 year to begin them. So I'm like, here's my first draft. But I have put together a list of words that I don't want it to use that I know are some of these well-known AI words: delve, dive, journey. Spoiler alert, it loves doing all this stuff. Likes to try to use a lot of hip words. So I have a list going and just say, here's what I need. Do not use any of these words. And then it brings me back a document, and then I'll read it to start editing, and I'll notice dive is in there, and I'll just go right back into it. Do it again. The word dive was used. And it literally will say, my bad, good catch.
Oh, first of all, that's scary and hilarious. But second of all, I'm realizing how limited my experience has been with this. I need to give it a shot and just join the cult of AI.
I would say, I would never use it for anything creative, only because really, I understand how any of this works, but I'm like, I don't want it to learn creative. I was actually talking to this woman, an audience member who works for Microsoft and mostly in AI. And she was about my age. And I was like, are you worried about your job? And she was like, yeah, well, every day I'm like, I'm still here. And I go, but you work in it. Why don't you just slow it down? Go in tomorrow, delete a couple lines of code here and there, slow it down.
That's hilarious that you asked this woman to take a stand and slow walk a technology to keep her own job. It's like she's training the robot to take her job, and you're like, why don't you just fucking
You have the skills. Get in there.
It's hilarious that you're acting like you know about coding enough to make things like that. She's like, if I don't know anything about it, but I'm guessing she would look at you and be like, that's not how it works, Ophira.
I know.
She does. One person.
Well, you know how many people tell me how stand-up works? Every once in a while, I'm going to tell them how coding works.
Oh, man. I miss talking to you. I'm really happy to catch up with you.
I miss talking to you too, Pete. I know. Wow. We live far and close, and that's a sure way to never see someone, honestly.
I'm thinking about, I'm going to throw you an idea.
Ooh.
Because you're a cancer survivor. People may not know that. Did you know that?
I just found out.
Oh. And there's a few people in our community that have been diagnosed with cancer and are, different experiences obviously with it. And I started thinking about, the older we get, the more likely we're talking about anything that we're dealing with. That's how life is.
Yep.
And I thought it would be interesting. I'm sure a lot of people have done this, but to talk to people about how they are living with, coping with, dealing with, because everybody's so different. Personally, I just want to keep learning about how to get older efficiently, smartly, in healthy ways. And I thought it would be kind of like a selfish exercise, but also kind of an interesting and human experiment to interview people about their diagnosis and their experience, because everybody just has such a different experience. And now with medical technology and advancements, I'm guessing your diagnosis and treatment would probably be a lot different given today. What do you think of?
I don't think so. I actually don't think my diagnosis and treatment would be different. I think honestly, it would be almost similar, because the whole issue, as I understand it, for my kind of cancer, which was breast cancer, is that so the diagnosis might be more specific. I think, and we're still at a place, as I understand, where our diagnostic abilities and that kind of end of the world of technology is incredible. The treatment is still barbaric. The treatment is still literally a person with a knife carving things out of you, or surgical.
Of breast cancer, the treatment is still the same, you're saying? Still
the same. Or if people are getting double mastectomies, that is still the same. They're literally just carving tissue off of a body. And then the chemotherapy might be tweaked a little bit better. I think the radiation was pretty far advanced, and I think that's still where it's at. The one thing I'd like to let you know is that my breast cancer surgeon, who I saw recently for follow-up, as we always do, I think is one of the smartest people on the planet. And she has a very high position, and she is very fast. I love talking to her because she's very fast talking, and she knows I like hearing about stuff. And she was like, I was just in France at a huge cancer AI weekend of speakers, and I was like, okay, I want to hear all about this. And she was saying that, unfortunately, of course, where is everyone most excited about putting the AI in this? They want to put it in places where they can just get rid of employees dealing with the patients, because that's where the profits are. Profit margin is like, can we just have everyone sign in on a screen? Do we have to have a front of desk person? Can we get rid of the nurse? Like all of the stuff.
So her what I'm hearing is that she was saying in the healthcare industry, it seems like AI is being resourced and geared towards replacing humans rather than medical advancements. Because I'm sure it's also it's also being used. That's what she's saying.
She was saying, and maybe that was really the focus of this particular symposium, but what she and a few other people are highly interested in and trying to push forward, of course, they are not the people that work on that. They're not creating AI, is something that I think would dial up the quality of people's experience a millionfold, which is no time between diagnosis and lab results. For example, if you are going in, if it's gotten so far that you're going in for a surgery, that they are taking out some tissue, but they still have to send it to the lab, those lab results of what that tissue is happens by the time you wake up from your operation. None of this 2 weeks, none of this, we got to send it to the lab and we'll find out soon. None of that waiting time. Use AI to get rid of that waiting time, to be able to churn through the data so much faster, which I know so many of us, including me, where you have to do a test and then wait for the results.
So it's
brutal.
So the waiting for the results period of a week or 2 weeks or whatever that is caused you so much anguish that that's kind of like something that you remember about and
yes.
I mean, I can only imagine. I can't imagine. That's like the kind of why I want to do this is like, how did you deal with those 2 weeks? If not, is that
Brutal.
what I'm hearing?
Brutal. I went to therapy and I would do what I call Jedi mind tricks, where I would constantly have to say things in my mind like, I cannot think the results. I cannot think positive or negative. I'm not in control of that kind of thing. I have no way of controlling that. I also had to think of like, it's just as likely as it's fine as it is terrible. Like there's no percentages here that I'm able to work with, and just on and on and on.
Let me just ask you, because you were making fun of me before we hit record, and rightfully so. When I told you that on my run up to my 50th birthday, one of the things I've been doing is rereading some books that have really helped me out a lot, specifically Pema Chodron's work, The Buddhist Monk. And I told you I was reading When Things Fall Apart. I was rereading it, and you laughed for about 2 minutes at me.
Yeah.
And
well, it was your timing and delivery that were impeccable, Pete.
Yes. Especially because I knew it's the timing and delivery are so much. It's a little bit different when you're doing a virtual talk.
It's like gag.
Right? Take the beats, but I loved it. But my question is, you have this great, disposition or posture, I guess, to often criticize toxic positivity.
Yes. Oh,
and
yeah.
I think that's important, and I think that's good. But the thing that I wonder about is what your thoughts are on Buddhism in general, because Buddhism is, I think, seen as like trying to find enlightenment and joy, but it's really about admitting that life is a lot of suffering and stop trying to make it seem like it's not for yourself and for others. The suffering is a part of life, and here's how you can deal with it, and mindfulness meditation and all these things. But it's coming. It's there. It's normal. Don't be afraid of it and stuff like that. What is your experience and views with these types of books and these types of practices that I
would say it's very anti-American. Just to begin with, I mean, that is one of the things that I think the pursuit of happiness and the way that has been expressed in this culture is brutal. And I feel like one of the reasons I hate toxic positivity so much, because I feel like the message behind it is not, like, be grateful with what you have. That's wonderful. But it's really like, because also there's a sale going on, so you might be able to get something else pretty cute. Like, I do think it is to keep you shopping, keep you a good consumer. Come on, big happy face, get out there, big consumer. Yeah. So I had a hard time with all of life is suffering. I was like when you are suffering and someone says all of life is suffering, you're a little bit like, go fuck yourself. Okay. Cause right now I need something a little bit better than that, cause suffering is not great. But if you approach it from the place of letting go part, without it sounding obviously like a Disney movie.
Well, that woman, Mel Robbins, she's making $1 million using the phrase "let it go," and she's being criticized by some of the people I respect the most, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
People don't like what she's doing and think it's like a little bit like it's giving people bad advice, really, kind of based on what you're saying. I mean, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, I'm not. And, I've listened to a few of her podcasts, and I always even wonder, because she had a doctor on from the Mayo Clinic that was actually talking about like foods and lifestyle changes you can make to basically take away as many percentages as you can for getting cancer. And this is a highly edited, of course, interview. So you don't know what you're missing there. And I was a little bit like, can I even believe any of this? I mean, some of it is like, eat purple cabbage. Sure. Like, great. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Like, wonderful. Just eat all the good stuff. But like when someone goes, if you eat edamame twice a week for 10 years, you're going to lower your risk of cancer by 37%. You're just like, what is that? Don't do that to people. Do not do that to people. That is not okay.
I could not agree more. And I feel that way for a lot of different reasons, because I've interviewed so many scientists who've taught me about how research is done. I don't know how research is done, but they've taught me about how it's done. So I understand, maybe, depending on scientific consensus around, peer-reviewed, randomized control, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then just understanding a little bit about having my own experience. Like I don't want, as a personal trainer, I don't want to sell people something that's not thoughtful. When it comes to Buddhism, this is the reason why I sell that. I will sell that because I believe in it, is because it's not all about suffering. I mean, it's just, as you said, that's what's wrong with American culture, Western culture, is this pursuit of constant joy and happiness. And I've got to be happy, and so do my kids, and no one can feel pain and adversity and all of that. That did a lot of damage to me, that false narrative, because when shit started falling apart, as my friend Ken Zatz says to me when we were on a walk, when things were going really well for me, he told me to read this book, When Things Fall Apart. And I said to him, but what if things don't fall apart? And he stopped in the trail and he looked back at me, Ophira, and he said, Pete, things always fall apart.
It's so true.
And
it's so true. There's no escaping.
There's no escaping the suffering, but it doesn't mean that all of life is suffering. It means that, just to contrast that silly narrative that you have to be happy all the time, understand that you don't. You shouldn't.
No.
That isn't what life is about. No one is, and it's a lie. And this book is where I'm paraphrasing from.
And people might challenge me on this, but I feel pretty strongly about it because we're still in October, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and the way that
only time I care about breast cancer, only time of the year.
That's you know what, you get in line, you and Delta Airlines and so many other brands.
Next month it's men and veterans. But anyway, what were you saying about?
So, all of a sudden everything's bathed in pink, and people, I mean, just the commodification of breast cancer and the pink ribbon thing just drives me insane. And when I was going through treatment and I was a rotten patient the second time I was diagnosed, because I was just like, oh, this is endless. Like, this is the rest of my life. I will never move forward. And I hated the pink ribbon. And part of the reason I hated the pink ribbon is because I get it. So anyone that's into it and goes, listen, that like saved me, or that's how I found community healing, I understand you. We can be different. Like, I didn't want pink ribbon. I didn't want to go on a bike ride. I didn't want to put on a boa. I didn't want to cheers with a pink Cosmo. That was not me. And I felt the pink ribbon was saying to me that I was not a smiley enough survivor, that I was not bouncing back in like a pretty pink jubilant way. To me, it felt silencing. I hated it.
I'm so glad that you shared that point of view. I've never heard it, and I'm sure you are not alone in it.
Yeah, so if they have some ribbon where we all sit in a basement and drink rye and listen to old Joni Mitchell albums, like the ones where you can really hear the American spirits in her voice, that's my group.
I think that's just a joint. So, I'll let you go. I do have to tell you that I've gotten back into running as part of my, health kick.
Amazing.
When you're running or exercise and you're kind of in a good groove, you look forward to it. So I was excited. You have so much time in your day, whatever. And so I was excited. So I went to the park. It's a nice day. And I'm about to go for my run. It was Saturday. And I pull up to this park, and there's hundreds and hundreds of mostly women in pink T-shirts walking with, numbers on. It was the walk, raise money for some breast cancer awareness, whatever reason. And I was annoyed because there was no room for me to run.
Exactly. I know. Make way for the white guy.
4 or 5 across the path, the running path. And I was like this, Ophira, all these people taking their day off to raise money, being together in community and loving kindness with each other. And I was like, you're in my way. I ended up just running against the grain. I waited for a while till they slowed down and ended, and I ran against the grain so they could see me coming. But it's not like
they could see you coming.
And I also felt like they thought I didn't care about cancer.
Yeah. Did you yell? Some men get it too. Did you yell that?
Over and over. I had a megaphone. And I just kept yelling at every one of them.
I know. Actually, I was a little not in my best place on the Delta flight where they handed me a special drink pink cocktail menu. Oh. And the woman was like, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I said, I am aware of breast cancer. I am aware.
Have you ever played the 2-time survivor card ever?
No. Oh, that's not true. You know what? Because I thought I saw then next flight. I've just taken so many flights recently. I go by Delta. They have this table set up with coffee, all kinds of little treats and little stuffed animals. And it says breast cancer, blah, 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 Delta. And I go, oh, because I think she's going to give me something. I go, oh, I'm a survivor. And she goes, oh, yeah. I go, so what do I get? And she goes, oh, no, this is to donate. If you donate on a QR code, I'll give you something. And I was like, I already donated. You bitch.
I love that you said, what do I get? Realized that it was nothing. And I wish I was there for that next couple of moments. I want to find something to do.
I was like, I donated tissue. Is that not enough?
I thought you were going to say that. We have to find something to do together because I just love hanging out with you. And
I love hanging out with you too, Pete.
All right. I will let you go. I didn't even ask you for how much time, but you gave me more than an hour, and I'm really grateful for it. And I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Ophira is going to be performing live, and I'll be there on the 9th. Is it the 9th?
November 9th, Sunday, November 9th, 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. Best show times ever, I would say.
The sun will be almost down as long as it's dark.
Perfect. Yeah, it'll be great. And then you can go home and sleep early. You can go for dinner afterwards. You can have a cup of cocktails. Feels like you've had 9 nights in one solid night.
Maybe I'll come to both shows.
Ah, you're the best. You can see the one where I'm trying and the one where I've given up. Which one is which?
What if no one would ever do this? No comedian would ever do this to another comedian, I don't think. But like, what if you like sat within eyesight of a good friend of yours who is taping a special, like a good me or you? It would be the fucking worst.
Brutal.
Right?
No, absolutely awful. You can't do that.
You always have to be standing behind.
Yeah.
Or off to the side.
Yeah. Just stoic the whole time. Mm.
Yeah.
I did. This is like one of my favorite things after a show this summer. I was just outside after the show, like saying thank you to people. And this elder woman came by. And I just have to say this part of her face, her nose and her eyes, spitting image of my mother, who's been dead for a while. And it was so compelling. Like I actually could not take my eyes off this woman, and she came right up to me, and I was like half freaked out. I'm not really this kind of person, but it was jarring. And she said, I want to give you the greatest compliment that I haven't been able to give someone in a long time. And I was like, okay. And she goes, I didn't leave.
Because I'm your mother.
I mean, I guess she just meant that my act was good enough that she didn't feel like leaving, but that's wild.
It's nice. It's kind of nice.
It's kind of nice. That's very, I mean, it's not exactly my mother's tone, but we're in the right realm.
Like my mom did. Well, no, I was young. It was horrible.
That would have been great. Instead, I just looked stunned.
So thank you. That's well, I can't wait to see you performing live. I appreciate you joining me. I'm going to say, and goodbye, everybody. Say bye, Ophira.
Bye. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Pete.
Yeah. There you go. Ophira Eisenberg. There she goes. OphiraEisenberg.com. See her live in New York. Check her out. I'll be there on November 9th, and it's going to be an awesome time. So we'll have great laughs watching Ophira at her taping. And that is all I've got for you today. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for your support. I hope to see you at tonight's hangout. Thank you for your birthday wishes. I'm sure many of you are going to wish me. And if you don't, that's okay too, because maybe I missed yours. I probably missed yours. I probably did. Sorry about that. All right, John Carroll, November 6th in Virginia. Be there, johncarroll.org. And that is all I've got. I'll talk to you later. Talk to you tomorrow. Talk to you tonight.
Knees, you gotta stand up. I think you're driving wheels with leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You gotta stand up. demonstrated